Joshua is the Managing Director for Liberty Africa Limited. This is an input supplier that deals with specialty fertilizers. Joshua has been in the industry for more than 25 years. So karibu Joshua, carry on.
Okay, thank you, Jen. And thank you all participants. As Jen has said, my name is Joshua Ochiel, and I will moderate the next bit of this session. I would like to immediately call upon the participants to respond to some of the very key issues that touch on food safety. And I do not know if Dr. Maritim is in the forum already, because my next bit will touch mainly on regulations, policy and regulation. And I think being a member of the ministry, the dairy board, you could be in a position to do that. But if he's not in, then I would just send a question to any panelist who would answer it. And the main issue here is the good agricultural practice. I think this is something that has been worked on for several years, especially in the country. And we do realize that this has mainly focused on export food. I would like to know from the panelists if there is any regulations and policies that are in place that also takes care of the local food that we consume. Any one of the panelists can take that for the moment.
Hello, Joshua.
Yeah, good morning.
Morning, everybody. Yes, I think I can start the discussion. I know other people who are from the regulatory agencies can also answer this. Our food that we eat. I know the person from public health, Alan, may also comment, but from the animal health point of view, we do have regulations that take care of food safety, right starting from the use of the antimicrobials like Prof was presenting, because food safety we know starts right from the production. We also have the Meat Control Act, which looks at the meat right from before slaughter, through slaughter, up to the time the meat gets to the point of further processing, either butchery or processing, where the Ministry of Health would come in. So yes, we do have regulations and they are going on, but one of the challenges we may have is the enforcement. And also now with the devolution, there is maybe the counties may not be enforcing at an equal level. Thank you. My presentation.
Joyce, before you go, what are the real challenges that are being faced in putting these policies and regulations in place? What, in your opinion, are the main challenges, and why is it slow to be implemented?
One of the things maybe I would say is the understanding of the food business operators, why the regulations are there. So it becomes, if people are forced to implement these measures, or if the government is only policing to push people hard to do it, but if that is understood, then everybody will be able to work together. Number two, with the diminishing resources, both financial and human resources, the issue of monitoring the implementation of these measures may be a big challenge. Those may be two of the things. I believe my other colleagues from the other regulatory agencies can be able to add on that. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any of our colleagues from those agencies who is on board and can give us some more information?
Thank you, Joshua. My name is Grace Mushemi from Pest Control Products Board. And I think I echo to what Dr. Joyce has raised, that the government have regulations that touch on food safety. For example, we have the PCP Act, that is Cap 346, Laws of Kenya, that deals with the safe use of pesticide as one of the mandates. And I think I would raise an issue of where we have the challenge, because we find that the growers may not read the label of the pesticide and follow the instructions, especially when it comes to the good agricultural practices, whereby they are supposed to use the light dosage of the pesticide to ensure that only the light amount is dispensed on the crops. The other issue is the follow-up on the pre-harvest interval. This is whereby you find that a farmer may not read the label and observe the PHI. That is maybe the days that they are laid upon between the time of spraying and the time of harvesting. And you find that with that now, it raises the amount of the pesticide on the fruits and the vegetables or other crops that have been sprayed. And this, and considering that they are laid what we call the maximum residue levels, they may be higher, they may be exceeded. And in this case, this is a food safety issue. And when farmers do not observe that, I think it becomes a real issue in terms of food safety. On the other hand, you find that some farmers may not use the approved pesticide. That is, they are approved as per the crop and the disease or the pests on the crop. And PCPB have a list of registered products that is free on their website, and anyone can access it. And we expect that once this is followed, food safety would be observed in terms of ensuring that the pesticide residues on the crops, they are as retro as required, considering that we cannot do away with pesticides, because one of the issues we know is that they are poisons, yet we require them to manage and control pests and diseases. And but still, we are encouraging farmers to use what we call integrated pest management, whereby if the farmer does the scouting in advance, they'll be able to control the pests in advance. They can also use other casual methods whereby chemicals are not used. And we are encouraging to use safer pesticides, because we have a range of pesticides, but there are some which are safer. And so with that, we expect to improve on food safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. That is quite well elaborated. I, however, still have an issue with the same because we are not living in isolation. We have regional blocks that trade and do business together. And in the recent past, we have had issues of contaminated food crossing through our borders. What would you say about the regulations that govern intertrade between the trading blocks, and more so in the East and Central African region, with a view of harmonizing those regulations?
Thank you, Joshua. The East African community are trying, and I think it's in an advanced stage in harmonizing the standards, whereby we'll be able to facilitate trade within the region, whereby if for example, if there are pesticides standards for Uganda, they'll be the same for Tanzania and for Kenya, because the challenge has been if some of the pesticides, considering that our forex rates in Tanzania you find that some of the pesticides will be cheaper in Tanzania, and so farmers would tend to buy from Tanzania. So that regional trade would bring about maybe issues of some pesticides not being approved in Kenya, but they are available in Tanzania, and since they are cheaper, farmers would tend to buy them. So in that case, food safety would not be observed when these pesticides are being used here in Kenya. But the codex standards are being promoted, especially for the region, and the harmonization is way far advanced. And now that even the other day, we saw the president of Tanzania coming to Kenya and having negotiations with our own president, we expect that we'll have more negotiations at the policy level to include the harmonized standards that will promote food safety in the region and also facilitate trade in the region. Thank you.
Okay, could we therefore maybe say that in that aspect we have done a little bit poorly in terms of regulating these things? Because if after many years of policy development, we still have issues of cross-border trades that are not in the interest of our country, can we say that we have failed in that aspect, and we therefore need to pull up our socks and maybe have a body that implements those regulations to the letter?
Maybe to put it in the right perspective, I would say that we still have, even in our borders, we have organizations with officers at the borders. So trying to regulate our trade within the nation. But as I said, there is that retro penetration because of the porous borders. But I would say there is also working together of several organizations. Like you'd find maybe KRA working with KEBS, working with PCPB, working with KEFIS, and working with all the organizations to ensure that food is safe within our organization. So in terms of ensuring food safety in Kenya, I would say we are at an advanced stage as a nation, because, and this is also seen because of the participation of the Kenyans in even the making the standards, even at the world level, whereby Kenyans are participating in large numbers to ensure that in the region, in fact, we read, and we are trying also to bring the others on board. And also the East African community is really strengthening day by day to ensure that safe trade within our region is promoted. So I would say maybe the retro penetration is what we need now to work on and ensure that we have reduced we continue reducing, because the issue is a continual improvement in our systems. And I think this is what we are promoting day by day. Thank you, Joshua.
Okay, thank you very much, Grace. I think you've answered that question quite effectively. What remains, therefore, is those in charge of implementing those policies to actually pick it up from this discussion and try to ensure that the citizens are not at risk of food contamination due to bad practices emanating from the region. I would like to extend that discussion a little bit and maybe now touch on the rights of citizens to safe food, because I think it's the right of every citizen to consume the right food that is safe and that is not detrimental to their health. I'm not sure if this has been effectively handled by those concerned. And I would like to maybe ask any of the other participants in the team to give us some insight on what are the rights of the citizens towards achieving food safety.
Yeah, I think I can go ahead. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, Marianne, please go ahead.
Thank you, Joshua. My name is Marianne Kindiki. I'm the manager in charge of the National Codex Contact Point for Kenya at the Kenya Bureau of Standards. I wanted, first of all, before we come to the right of the citizen, to mention something about harmonization, which is a key aspect at the Kenya Bureau of Standards. As Grace has said, Grace from PCPB has said, the issue of harmonization is not we are not at a stagnant stage. I can say we are progressing very well in the East African community since the signing of the agreement at the EAC level. We have been able to harmonize most of the standards, whereby you find that most Kenya standards are East African standards. And this has opened up markets for our products, such that when we import or export our produce to within the East African region, our product does not require to be tested at the destination country and vice versa. And what does this mean? It means that there is open markets which has facilitated trade within the region. And the other benefit is reduction of costs. You find that the exporters or importers do not have to keep on testing their product while carrying out this, the trade within the region. Also at the Africa region, talking from the perspective of Codex, since I am the CCP for Kenya, I would like to say that we are at a process of developing a regional guideline. And this guideline is a guideline that we are developing to support the African region. Since the signing of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, we are developing a guideline that is going to support the African countries in developing their own regulations. A process has been started before. There has been efforts for countries, for the region to develop a model food law without success. This is because all countries are sovereign. We cannot have a model food law that cuts across. But Codex Committee for the African region has seen the need to have an harmonized approach. And this is by developing guidelines that the countries are going to use in order to develop their own food law. So in terms of harmonization, this is a process that is going to open up markets within the EAC and the African region, and this will facilitate trade and cut costs within the regions. Thank you. Coming to the question that Joshua, you had talked about the right of every citizen to save food. I would say that every citizen has a right, yes, to save food, not just to food, but to save food. In Codex and within the field of food science, we say that if it is not safe, it is not food. So food safety is a key component and a right to every citizen. And one benefit of food safety is attaining food security, where every citizen is supplied with nutritious and safe food. The other benefit of food safety for every citizen is reduction of foodborne illnesses. You find that food safety is a key for a country's development progress because it has an economic impact. These foodborne illnesses, you find that they affect countries economically due to the burden of diseases that are caused by lack of enough food or caused by unsafe food given to the citizens. And when we say that every citizen has a right to safe food, it is not the responsibility of anyone, but the responsibility of everybody. And that is why, as we celebrate this World Food Safety Day, we are saying that food safety is everyone's business. It is indeed everyone's business, from the farmer all through to the consumer. The way you handle your food, the way you handle it in the kitchen, the way the farmer grows this food, the way the processor processes this food at the factory, it is the responsibility of everyone, including the government institutions. As we monitor and regulate the conformance to standards, it is a factor coming in to support food safety. So it is true, every citizen has a right to food, and not just food, but safe food. and it is everyone's business to ensure that the food is safe. Thank you.
Lawrence, you would like to say something. Kindly proceed.
Thank you, Joshua. Two things. First of all, my name is Lawrence Hello from National Public Health Lab within the Ministry of Health, working in the Food Safety and Nutrition Reference Laboratory. So about the rights of the citizen to safe food, if I start with that, I think this is enshrined in our Constitution 2010 in the section 43, where every citizen has a right to safe food. So to ensure this, part of this is also enshrined in Cap 254, that is the Food, Drugs, and Chemical Substances Act, which our institution draws part of its mandate from. So the citizens have a right to safe food, and our institution ensures this through food safety testing, that is testing for food safety and quality of the food. We do this in testing for the food safety the food contaminants, like the mycotoxins, and also the food additives, which we test quite a number of them. Now, on the issue of harmonization of the standards, as Marianne has rightly put it, Kenya Bureau of Standards is mandated to develop the standards in collaboration with other key stakeholders, and PHL being one of them. So we have the Kenyan standards, which are developed for most of the products in our jurisdiction, Kenya. Kenya also works in harmony with East African states in developing East African standards, also in developing Codex standards. But the other thing I wanted to add was in the regional harmonization, we also have the COMESA states. The COMESA states, that is the East and Southern African countries, they have what we call the mutual regulatory framework, where they are working towards recognizing the certificates of analysis from one state, so that we don't have issues like we had recently. So when a product is imported from a country within the COMESA state, it should be recognized. The certificate of analysis should be recognized across all the regions. Thank you. We will elaborate more.
Okay, thank you very much, Lawrence, for that input. I would then give the next chance to Alan to proceed before we get to Mr. Tito back online. Alan.
Thank you, Joshua. I wanted to highlight on the issues that Lawrence, I come from the Ministry of Health also, the Division of Food Safety, with Lawrence in the ministry, and he has touched on the issues I wanted to reiterate on. However, I will highlight one point, the point being harmonization. We've had cases where traders, food business operators are stating that there's a lot of over-regulation of some of these food safety laws. So the Ministry of Health is in the process of trying to develop a bill, a Kenya Food and Drug Authority bill, where there will be much more harmonization and coordination in terms of legislation. We've realized that some of these challenges in our food management, food safety management, are coming as a result of maybe overlap or over-regulation in some aspects. So we are hoping that with the realization of the food, the KFDA bill, which is currently in Parliament, if it comes into force, it will bring in some kind of coordinated regulation, whereby now the food business operator will be able to understand that the regulation is meant to be for their own good. It's not supposed to be punitive. So as a ministry, we are keen on making sure that the food business operators, right from the production up to consumption, are well versed with the legislation, so that when it's being harmonized across board, there's easier understanding. At the county level, as a ministry, the county public health offices are open, and they offer advice and guidance to all food business operators on how to execute the legislation that is in place, just to make sure that harmony is within the food safety space. So as we observe this day to day, I urge our participants to be conversant with the legislation that is available. That is the Kenya Food, Drugs and Chemical Substances Act, Cap 254, the Public Health Act, Cap 242, and the relevant standards that are provided by the Kenya Bureau of Standards, just to be sure that they are playing the game within the limits of the law. That way, there'll be a lot of harmonization and a lot of more understanding for consumers. And our offices are always open in the counties and also at the national level where I sit for any advice and clarification in terms of how this legislation is harmonized across the food industry. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alan, for that input. And I think it clearly puts us on a path that seems very clear as far as what we really need in terms of food safety. I realized also that Josephine wanted to have an input on the same subject, but your hand has gone down. I don't know if you still need to do something. Otherwise, we move on to the next.
Joshua?
Oh.
This is George.
Yes, George.
Yeah, I think the key question that you asked was the consumer right. And it is true the consumer has a right, but then we need to check, do they know their rights? Because if you don't know something, you can't demand for it. In that sense, then awareness creation becomes important, but who will do it? Is it the consumer activists who will do it? Because if you leave it to activists, then you have a chance of running a wrong thing. So this has to come from those who are mandated to ensure safety and who have got the technical know-how and scientific basis. Many times, not once, not twice, Joshua, I have gone to a supermarket and I find they are selling something which is clearly labeled and expired already. And I have taken upon myself to tell them to remove it when I'm seeing it. But you see, that is for me who is very careful. I normally don't just buy until I look at the sell by date, when was it manufactured, and the contents. I am very sure about that. But you know, that is because I operate in this sector. But those who majority do not. So the consumer has a right, but this right, until they know it, they may not demand it. Number two, Joshua, is what we are calling, even though we say that the food safety is a responsibility for everyone, but when you go into a food business, then it becomes more of your responsibility than the consumer. And in our country, until we reach a point where we have got self-regulation and we inculcate what we are calling ethical considerations as we produce, those are key things that we need to really see how do we bring it into our own system, and especially in food businesses, to assure food safety. Because the reason why somebody would spray the hamburgers today and harvest it tomorrow because they are selling it, and then when it comes to what they are eating, they know they have to wait for a week, it brings a lot of question to our own ethical and moral standards. Thank you, Joshua.
Thank you very much, George, for that input as well. That is quite eye-opening. because the rights of citizens towards safe food is something that should not be taken lightly. And on the same note, I would like to dive a little bit onto the agri-inputs segment. Inputs in agriculture definitely plays a very, very important role. And those who are responsible for ensuring that crop nutrition is done according to the laid down procedures and regulations are also very important in they play a very key role in advising or setting up of the same policies. I would like to maybe ask if Apollo or Josephine Simiu from the Agriculture and Food Authority, if they are online, to give us some additional information on how regulations are being carried as far as nutrition is concerned, and especially at the growing level, because you have been in that industry for quite some time. Apollo, if you're in, please take it up, or Josephine.
Should I go, or Apollo goes first?
Josephine, go, since you come in first.
Okay, thank you everyone, and good morning. First of all, I'd just like to indicate that Agriculture and Food Authority regulates the crops industry. And to be able to do that, we've set various regulations, and specifically for horticulture, because that's where I work. We have gazetted new regulations, the horticulture crops regulations of 2020. Previously, we were really focusing more of the export crops under the previous orders, which was Horticulture Crops Authority orders of 2011. And since the focus was more on export crops, I think that is where you saw a very big gap in terms of how products are harvested from the farm, transported, and also even handled by the different food business operators. So with the coming in of the current regulations, then now food business operators have been now the responsibility of how to handle the product safely is more, it's actually more now pronounced now. And because horticulture trade, and for that matter, food trade at the county level is actually regulated by the county governments. The county governments have actually been given greater responsibilities, just the way public health has mandated the county public health officers to undertake food safety checks at the county governments. Now, the county crops inspectors now are able to conduct surveillance and inspect products that are coming from the farm, as well as getting into the market. And what you have just raised in terms of inputs, the regulations now, we provided horizontal regulations in terms of the quality of the inputs that are being used by growers, and it requires that risk assessment is done before utilization of some of these inputs. And because we have the Horticulture Code of Practice, the KS 1758, this standard has been referenced in the regulations. So it's now a mandatory standard. Some aspects of it are mandatory, particularly what you've raised, the issues of inputs, how agrochemicals are used, fertilizers, pest control products, because some of these inputs contribute, a great contributor to the contaminants that eventually are found in food. So pesticide residues, sometimes heavy metals come from some of the inputs that are used during production. So these are now aspects that can be regulated by the county governments because we have horizontal regulations guiding that, as well as the national horticulture standard that is able to even guide the growers and the other food business operators in terms of conducting the risk assessment. So that is what I can say for now. So we are actually collaborating more with the county government, given that agriculture is devolved. We are even conducting capacity building to the crops inspectors so that they can be able to better execute these functions of even monitoring how the inputs are being used at the farm level, but also specifically by even food business operators. Some are used at the packing facilities. Then they can be monitored at that level. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Josephine. Apollo, do you want to take the next stage?
Yeah, thank you very much, Joshua. My name is Apollo War. I'm the chairman of Fresh Produce Exporters Association of Kenya. And just in light with what we are discussing currently, I think part of what we look at is just the overall process flow in terms of production from farm to fork, and looking at the key parameters that would be introduced during the food processing to ensure that the consumer is protected from any contaminants, which I'm sure have already been classified in terms of their pathogenic and chemical and the physical properties. So within that process, the quality of input used and the level of intervention standards, the hygiene standards by the various operators, and also protecting the overall worker scenario is all encompassed into a system which we consider as the food safety management system that literally rolls out from site selection all through to what lands to the consumer on the plate. And the key elements at that point is the choices of inputs, as has already had been mentioned, the choices of plant protection products, the regime to be used, and also just being the key aspect here is the responsibility, being a responsible food business operator, that one is able to safeguard and to ensure that the key elements that would probably be potential contaminants are addressed through a very robust risk assessment strategy that then would now be encompassed into the overall regime of the food production. So I believe those are the sort of matrices that we're looking at during this food production elements that would be able to ultimately ensure that the consumer is protected from any potential contaminants. Thanks, Joshua.
Okay, thank you, Apollo. That was brief and to the point. And I would like to maybe just read one or two comments from the chat wall. And Gerald Musyoki says, are we certain FBOs really do not appreciate the need for regulations, while at the same time they do implement food standards that help them to access markets, including more stringent market access requirement for food safety? The other comment is from Gladys Maina, and she says that this has to do with porous borders, and I think that is in reference to the cross-border trades and free movements of persons in the region. If the policies and the regulations that we have in this country are supporting that segment of grain, I would like to inform us that there is a poll in progress. So if you can just spend a few minutes to look at the poll, which has been shared, and fill the information that is needed as we proceed.